We are back in the garage, and it's time to get this RB breathing clean and keeping cool. So the last time we were together, we got the car started, man. We got the RB started and everything was awesome, funky, fresh, and fly. It's not like we could keep it running for any length of time because we don't have any kind of a coolant system running on the car right now, and definitely don't want to get this engine too heated up without coolant running through it. I talked about how the radiator was en route, but I was headed out of town. That's all happened, and now we're back, and yes, the radiator is here among a bunch of other goodies. Let's take those one at a time. First thing we're gonna do is figure out the intake situation, and by figure out, I actually mean install, because I've already got it figured out. Here is the stock RB26 intake pipe thing, and it actually fits right here, just like that. Right here is where the mass airflow meter would connect, and then down here is the other inlet, and another mass airflow meter will connect. My original decision was to go completely stock and actually keep both mass airflow meters. Through time and more consideration, I decided to go no MAFs, go map sensor, go Haltech, all that good stuff. But right here on the shelf, I have two Z32 MAFs. Someday soon, those will go into a garage sale because I actually have the entire pigtail set too. When I went ahead and ordered the wiring specialist harness, I got it with two Z32 MAF plugs. Maybe sometime soon we'll put those up for sale, and maybe some of you 240 guys can take advantage, or if anybody else is doing one of these, they could take advantage. This is not gonna work for our setup. I talked about how I ordered two HKS little mushroom filters. This is exactly what we need for our setup. I butchered some of that piping, and this is what I've got. I ordered some elbows and a 45-degree piece here, a 90-degree piece here. This is some of that piping here, nice little elbow there. A little straight piece here. I also have these couplers here, but unfortunately ordered the wrong size, so I've got some backup blue couplers. I'm gonna have to reorder some black ones. This is the plan, man. One, I don't need this little bung right here, which is for the recirculation valves. We plugged the one off that's right down here in this turbo. I want to get rid of this piece altogether. The idea is to go ahead and install the two filters here and here. I've already kind of measured it all out, and yeah, let me go ahead and put it all in. All right, there we go, man. I think it turned out pretty sweet. Looks pretty fine. Leaves a lot of open space going on down into the side. Again, I'm going to change out these blue couplers with black ones just like this. I toyed with the idea of the pipe going this direction, mushroom facing this way. It just looked awkward. This way, with them kind of stacked on top of each other like that, a lot closer to the original GTR type appearance that you see. I still got to put the hose clamps in, and I'm not going to do that just yet because we still have one other thing that we need to do. As far as the air system is concerned overall, you can see that the PCV system is still here for the breather tube. Eventually, yes, this is going to go to a catch can system, but just for the sake of initial installation, I want to keep things as stock and clean as possible. Eventually, once we get this thing running perfectly with no issues, then that's where we start introducing things. But if I start introducing things outside of normal, then that's where we start having bugs that we don't even know where to begin to look for them. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I think it's gonna look way better, or it does look way better than that big rubber hose. And yeah, let me know what you think. I got the radiator, and it's right down here, and we're gonna show that in a little bit more detail in a second. But first, I actually had test fitting this radiator. Guys, I ordered a radiator that was just the exact right perfect size, meaning is almost a little too big. But in order to combat that, we actually had to move our intercooler forward about half an inch, or a little more than half an inch, about a centimeter. And it may not seem like a lot, but man, just moving that centimeter forward, I actually had to make a cut into the front bumper here because you could see it needed to sit slightly into it. And I've already extended the bottom out so everything's perpendicular in the way it's supposed to be, but now you could see these bolts here used to previously sit right back here behind this piece of metal. So that's how much this thing moved forward. Doesn't seem like a lot, but man, once I pull this radiator out, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. In order to perform this swap, one of the biggest challenges is space, right? As you can see, the RB comes right up to the front. And when you start looking at what room you have available to you, man, your choices are kind of slim. So there's a couple different solutions that I've seen. For one, we chose to go with an actual front mount for an RB26. Now, I don't know if this intercooler was originally designed to be maybe in an S13, S14 with an RB26 swap, or if it's thought to be a direct replacement for a GTR. It definitely is not that, because a direct replacement would have bent slightly back on the outlets with longer outlets. This isn't that either. But this is what we chose to use. Now, I've seen RB swaps that have a thinner core and the pipes go straight out the back and through this inner opening here, so they go right into the engine. We chose to go outward like this and then come up through our openings right here. What are we left with for radiator space? Well, we got two choices, guys. You can either go with a radiator that is thin, so narrow, side to side, but it sits up high so that you could take advantage of all this area here where the old air filter assembly would have been. You can also get a nose panel that has a slit in it, and it allows you to have some functionality and stuff like that. That's one option. I scoured the internet for a radiator already made in those dimensions, and I'll tell you what, I couldn't find it. I could not find a radiator that I thought was sufficient enough in the dimensions to fit like that, that didn't have to be custom made, or a custom core with custom end tanks made and all that stuff. I'm looking for ease, okay? Not simpleness, but just ease. And so I started taking dimensions from here, and you could see this bottom edge of the headlight bucket right here. The distance from the bottom of this headlight bucket to the bottom of there is, I think it's like 13.5 or 14 inches. And if we go from this frame rail all the way to that frame rail, we have like 24 or 27 inches to play with. I mean, I think it's 27. We could actually get a pretty long radiator that's not very tall. We have an extreme amount of width. I think there's about 5 inches here. It may be hard to tell in perspective. I found a company, I think I ordered it through Jegs or Summit Racing or one of those two, CNR Performance. This radiator I think is originally meant for a drag car or an outlaw car or something of that nature. Already made, perfect dimensions of what I need. It came with a Spall fan, a high performing 12-inch Spall fan. And this is what we got. This radiator is, I think, 13.5 inches tall, and it's 21.5 or 23 inches wide. Perfect for the exact little tiny space that we have available to us. It's also got a 3-inch thick core, which that is amazing, and it's a dual pass radiator, meaning the inlet and the outlet are on the same side. So coolant's gonna go in, it's gonna go all the way through to this tank, drop down, go all the way back through, and come back out. So we're getting double the amount of surface area, and it stays in the radiator longer, so hopefully that's going to create the cooling that we need. The other good potential thing is that I don't need to have a functional nose panel, and this radiator stays down low completely behind the intercooler, so everything is within the functional zone of air going through the front of the car. Again, it came with the 12-inch fan and with an aluminum fan shroud already included. So all in all, I think I paid about $600-ish for this radiator. I may end up switching the fan out. That remains to be seen. I think there are more high-performing fans, but we're gonna give this one a shot first and see what it does and what it doesn't do for us, but I think we may be good to go. Looking over here at the inlet outlet, what you need to do for this radiator is order the actual inlet and outlets that you plan to use based on your application, and then you just screw these right in. So I ordered sizes that adhere to the actual size of radiator hose that we're going to be using on our inlet outlets. They have 3 different sizes of inlet outlets that you can screw on based on your application. If you guys are doing this swap, man, you can go with the custom radiator route. You could do the V mount, so you can even get even more, but if you're going for a flush mount, trying to take advantage of the space that you have, again, I don't want to cut my core support. I want everything about the integrity of this front end totally stock the way it's supposed to be. This thing fits the bill like no other buddy's business. Now what do we need to do? We need to get this thing installed. We need to build some brackets to mount it side to side. We'll also work in some cushioning so that it's flush up against our intercooler. Once we get that piece, then we'll have the spatial awareness for these two openings, so then we can go to the parts store, find our radiator hoses for upper and lower, and then yeah. So it is the next day in the pursuit of getting this radiator in, and I was actually up pretty late last night. Let me tell you what, man, fabrication is a game of millimeters, dude, and like trying to squeeze every last piece of space out has been difficult. Not to mention just trying to figure out a way to mount this radiator, and let me kind of show you some of the reasons why. So normally the radiator would have little pegs that stick out on it that are welded to it that are forward mounting. But I needed every possible teeny tiny little amount of space I could muster. I had to cut those little pegs off and figure out alternate ways to mount. The first way I mounted was using these brackets, the same brackets that I'm mounting my intercooler with, that mount to the front bumper and then bends up and it goes up behind, kind of curving, and then it bolts right into this. Well, now this piece bolts into that, and then this goes into plate that covers the actual core itself. I want to make sure I'm not putting a lot of weight on that, so that's just kind of temporary to get it tacked in place. Eventually, I put a nice brace underneath. Let me show you that. So it's a little bit cramped under here, but you could see this right here, this big, thick strip of aluminum, and there's actually a piece of foam insulation here so that we don't get a lot of metallic on metallic noise or anything like that. And this strap comes up, bends up there, and attaches to the frame rail, and there's already a perfect hole for a 10mm bolt right there. So we've got that strap that's holding it in place. And then digging through my little toolbox, I actually found this little outlet bung that's got a little flip switch here, so that's perfect for our drain cock. I drilled a little hole inside the fan shroud so that I can actually zip tie this handle for the drain cock so it doesn't accidentally fall down. When we need to drain it, we just cut the zip tie and we're good to go. So yet another day has passed, and it's been in a very weird, unfortunate way. So the battery on the camera died, and I can't find the charger. I couldn't find the charger, and I spent like an entire day looking for it, and I got frustrated, and so I actually recorded all the end of this entire episode on my iPhone, but then I was like, you know what? No, I want to do more work. I'm not ready to close it out, so today I went shopping, found a new battery charger at Best Buy, charged up the camera, now we're good to go. So let me show you what's happened, because actually a lot has happened. So we now have radiator hoses installed between the radiator and the engine, and I want to show you, before I show you the hoses, I want to show you how I did it. Like I told you, it's all about spatial awareness, right? We have to know where the inlet and outlet is, and we have to know where the engine points are. So I made these models out of coat hangers, and I marked them as far as where they go. Kind of told me, okay, where the hole is there and where it goes to on the engine, just like you can kind of see mocked up like that. And I made one also for the lower radiator right here. And then I went to my local parts store and I scavenged the entire inventory of everything they had in the back. And I had a couple employees helping me, and God bless them, they were amazing for it. And we ended up finding two hoses that perfectly worked with a little modification, not much. If you're playing along at home, you can use a Gates hose number 23019. These were bought at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And the other one is another Gates hose 22654, and this is the upper one. I had to cut off this angle right here, and the lower one, all I had to do was take off this little piece right there. Lines up perfectly, runs right past the alternator and into the engine where it's supposed to be, and this one drops down perfectly right there. The only thing I have left to do for the radiator is the electricity. And if you didn't know, the Haltech ECU actually has an auxiliary control port, so we'll be able to, through a relay, hook up this electrical fan to the Haltech computer, and it will electronically trigger the on and off signal based on the computer's temperature reading at the engine, rather than hook up some sort of manual thermostat or electronic switch that we control by ourselves. So good job, Haltech. That's going to be amazing. Like I said, some time has passed, and guys, check it out. Our expansion tank is now fully installed. Everything's good to go. All the hoses are ran. And look at this spaghetti bowl of a mess back here, man. It is crazy. But we are 100% legit good to go. Not only is the expansion tank hooked in, but now the engine and everything is running through the heater core at the firewall, so everything is good to go. One of my neighbors came by and asked me why I had a motorcycle battery in my car. And yeah, this is not a motorcycle battery. If you did not know, there's a company called Braille that makes lightweight racing batteries that are less than half the size of a normal car battery and just as powerful as a car battery. This 17 is dead. No matter how many times I try to charge it, it's dead. It's because, like an idiot, left it in my car when this was at the paint shop for 3 months and it just died. I actually ordered the biggest one they have, a 21, which is just slightly bigger than this. One of the things that's important to me, and I think I've said this before, is the interior. Like, I bought this particular Z because the interior was cherry. I want to leave it that way. I don't want to battery relocate into the trunk. By using this Braille battery, I'm only taking up half the space, and right here is where I plan to install the Radium Engineering dual catch can system. And now we've got room for our overflow, and we'll also put that other coolant thing back down in there. Let's go ahead and just do an overall double check of the entire system, get some coolant in it, and let's fire it up. Little bit of a setback, man. I've been running back and forth to the store just because I needed to get more coolant, but anyway, came back, started filling up the system again, and saw some drips underneath the car coming from the turbo area, and man, my heart sank because that's a really hard area to work in. But luckily, those two joints right there, right here and right here, water lines are the ones that are leaking. Those are the turbo feed lines for the coolant. Gonna take those apart. Luckily, easy access at this point in time. Not happy about coolant now all over the turbos. That's gonna smell really bad, but ugh. So I'm gonna take that apart, redo the thread tape on it, and hopefully that'll seal it up nice. Everything is back together the way it is supposed to be, and I do not detect any additional drips. The system is full as it can be, so I can only assume coolant is in this, but honestly, until this water pump is turning, we're not gonna know where the air is and where it's not. But I mean, it's as full as I can get it, and I've tried to bleed all the little air pockets everywhere. So yeah, the one thing I did do different, I used some more heavy duty thread tape. I wrapped it around a couple times just to give an extra seat on the threads, and I removed these brass crush washers and allowed the coolant line ends to actually thread in and seat a little bit further. Now, one thing that is different is last time when I assembled all this stuff together, I assembled it on the bench. And this time around, the main intersection, the main T, is actually being held firmly against the head, so I was able to get a lot more leverage on the line. So everything's extremely tight this time. Lots of thread tape, everything's back together. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the car, let it run for a little bit, and see if we can work out any air bubbles, and then, yeah, I think we'll call it a wraps for now. What was it, like Fast and Furious 6 or 7, when they told Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that there was good and bad news, and he's like, you know, I like to eat my dessert before dinner. So let's start with the good news. The good news is that that little joiner hose thing, that the coolant thing that we redid, it's working perfect. No leaks there. Bad news is a leak happened somewhere else. So I just let the engine run for quite a while. We got up to about halfway on the temperature scale. I didn't go any further than that. I don't know. I was just really uncomfortable. Both of the radiator hoses were getting real hot, and obviously the thermostat hadn't opened up yet, and I don't have the fan hooked up, and I don't have the overflow hooked up, and even though the radiator cap didn't open, I know we're still safe, but I'm not chancing it just yet. But regardless, started getting a leak. So the leak started happening from this dude, man, from the bottom. So I need to reevaluate this whole guy. What I don't like is I don't like this upward angle here. Unfortunately, because of the size of the opening on this, I had to use a series of adapters to get, and it created an upward angle, and yeah, I'm sorry, Jegs. Great product, not going to use this bottle. I think we're gonna re-engineer this. I know everything's hooked up right, it's just, this feels like a weak link to me. I'm gonna do some research, I'm gonna find a new unit, we're gonna replace this one. I've been looking at the Radium Engineering one, but man, it's actually really big, and I think it's too big for what I need, so yeah. Anyway, I think that's gonna do it, man. I mean, we got a lot of work done. I mean, the car is officially full of coolant. it's running, you know, closer to safely. It's got an intake, we got the blow-off valve, we got a lot of good stuff done, man. So I'm gonna finish fixing this, button up a couple things. The only pieces that we really have left are getting the drive shaft modified and getting the exhaust modified. I'll tell you what, the next time we get together, let's look at finishing the wire on the radiator fan into the Haltech, and let's also work on the boost control with the Haltech. I think those are two great things that we could do together. It's something that you're gonna need to know. And yeah, man. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm gonna re-engineer this coolant system. All good things. All good things. Anyway, ciao tutti amici, and aloha. Bye-bye.